Hi friends, it's Brittany Dinkin Papyrus and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to convince you that you too need a 365 journal. It's totally changed the way that I journal and it's changed the way that I look at journaling. I guarantee you, you're never going to want to go without one ever again. Don't get me wrong, I've made vintage journals, complicated journals, fanciful journals full of lace, and I loved every minute. I've made journals that have taken me forever to get through because I was too scared to use my pretty things. In this video, I'm going to challenge you to make the complete opposite journal. You see, as fun as these journals are to make, and even though I will totally continue to make these, they kind of lack the meaning and purpose I have found that a 365 journal can provide. I want you to make a journal that you can wreck, one that will inspire you to go crazy, chock it full of day-to-day ephemera, one that you are not at all afraid to write in or to hold your favorite memories, one that you'll pull off your shelf over and over again because you can't wait to fill it full of more memories. So yes, I'm calling this my 365 journal, and like I said, by the end of this video, I'm going to convince you that you absolutely need one too. For what it's worth, it may be the most meaningful journal you will ever create. For way too long, I held on to my photos and mementos, waiting for the perfect place to put them. They often didn't quote unquote work in my theme journals for obvious reasons, so the piles of saved ephemera just grew and grew. And now that I've made my first 365 journal, I don't think I'll ever go back. I've made a commitment to keeping one at all times. It's the perfect way to store photos, memories, ephemera, and just reflect upon this last year's challenges, accomplishments, and future goals. And yes, you may be asking yourself, well, if we're using all these bits and mementos, isn't it just junk journaling? And yes, I guess it is junk journaling. But in some of my layouts, I don't use junk at all. I use like fancy sari silk. It's all about honoring how we're feeling at the time and keeping a regular record of how we're growing and evolving and just our most cherished memories. I don't know if you noticed, but for the cover, I put together the most basic cover I think I've ever made. It consists of a box with some white gesso, a couple pieces of cardstock, some stickers, some stamping. That's it. I don't think I've ever made such a simple cover before. And the purpose behind that was just to make something that wasn't completely intimidating, something that seemed like you couldn't use it just in your day-to-day stuff. The point was to make something I felt like I couldn't possibly ruin. It didn't have to be perfect, and I bound the book full of a ton of random pages. Yes, even some of them are coloring pages. Some of them are Christmas themed papers. Some of it are summer themed pages. The point was to put a huge variety of different size and different theme papers so that I could find a page to journal on no matter what time of the year, no matter what kind of layout I wanted to do, and no matter the mood that I was in. The other thing I should mention about your cover is that you should make yourself a really wide spine. All of these mementos and photos are going to bulk up a journal really fast. And again, keep it really simple. I know if mine was perfect and frilly, I wouldn't want to write my ungodly looking handwriting in it or junk it up in the best way possible. And a lot of things you saw me pull out of that box probably look like junk, but they're mementos of my life I've been saving to put in this journal. They mean something to me, and that's the funny thing. You may think you've saved up stuff for too long and you won't possibly be able to go back and go through these ephemera bits and put them in a journal, but when you start going through them, the old pictures, receipts, packages, the memories start sort of flooding back, making this process a whole lot easier than you may think it might be. I'm sure you saw some of the mementos I saved were, aside from pictures, like receipts, ticket stubs, you know, your traditional things we call quote unquote ephemera. But I also saved packaging from makeup things that I will look back on and remember to be of a time, right? Like you saw, I think one of them was the packaging of an eyeshadow palette that I loved. Some of them are themed treat boxes I have gotten for my dog, some swatches of toys he's destroyed. things that will mean something to you later on. And when you look back on it, it'll bring back a flood of memories. A lot of these are just day-to-day items that we throw away or don't think, twice about, but it's sort of an amalgamation of who we are at a certain point in time and where we're at a particular time in our lives. In addition to convincing you to start a 365 journal, I am going to show you how you can use these photos and mementos you've been saving and transform them into beautiful layouts that reflect your own style. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to just be using junk in my layouts. I'm going to be using digital images, a whole host of other things that I've saved. And I'm going to be hopefully transforming these pieces into cohesive layouts. See, instead of buying more random embellishments that mean nothing, let's transform to save our memories into something incredible and focus on using supplies that we already have. This layout just started with a random bag of coffee beans that I had saved, and it evolved from there. I had found a set of cards that I picked up at the thrift store. I guess somebody had gotten rid of a bunch of cards they had made using their die cuts, and this card had tea and coffee on it. And it completely took on a life of its own, this layout. If you're anything like me and have been saving up ephemera and digital images for God knows how long now, you probably have way more stuff than you ever imagined. I would really recommend going through your stuff and just trying to sort it by theme or holiday or by year, depending on how you want to set up your journal. It'll make life a whole lot easier. And when I was doing so, I discovered not only did I have the coffee card and that coffee bag, but I also had some cafe au lait digital images. What else did I have? Oh, and then I saved a manual from my Ninja espresso machine with recipes in it and some other coffee themed stuff. And before I knew it, I had a complete layout. So I think one of the reasons why people save these pieces of ephemera and don't ever use them or are just overwhelmed by them is because they don't know how, like they're scared to cut them or crop them and use them in a layout that kind of fits their style. Like you can't just put every full booklet that you find in your journal, or else it would bulk up really quickly and it would just be a random assortment of stuff, which is okay if that's what you like, but at some point you have to crop these things down and put them into a layout that becomes personalized. And so that's what I'm doing by cropping out these coffee mugs. First of all, I didn't want to destroy the whole booklet because I really wanted to save these recipes to use for later. But by just cutting up these coffee mugs and using them as page border and kind of using them to crop an area where I wrote about my favorite presents that I got for Christmas, I just kind of took a random assortment of things and found a way to make it a cohesive layout and personalize it. And it inspired an entire layout essentially. I decided I needed more writing room, so I just backed that shiny paper, the Cafe Tostado label, with some brown paper packaging. I thought the color lended itself really nicely to the layout. And then that way I could journal about my favorite presents that I got for Christmas. And on the card, I could use that to contain one of the recipes one of my favorite recipes to make with my Ninja Cafe. Recipes, by the way, are a great way to personalize your journals. I don't know if you saw earlier, but as I was flipping through a couple of the pieces I had already put in, I used packaging from some lemons, and one of my favorite desserts are lemon bars. So I tucked the recipe for the lemon bars into that little pocket that I created. But a 365 journal doesn't have to be written in every day. It doesn't have to be a documentation of what you did every day. It's simply a reflection of you. So whether that be song lyrics or pictures from a trip you took or recipes or maybe how you're feeling that day, again, it's an amalgamation of who you are at that point in time. Maybe as part of your 365 journal, you are going to demonstrate how you've evolved in your junk journaling and different techniques that you use. This is the perfect place to play and get comfortable with things. Maybe you haven't been comfortable with certain techniques in the past, but maybe you have that watercolor palette sitting around and you can't paint, so you stay away from it. Well, start easy. Start by just painting some petals, or start by shading light paper with your watercolors, or just splattering some color on the page. It's a perfect way to evolve and kind of demonstrate your journey through the junk journaling world. I hope you guys don't mind that I'm doing a Christmas layout. I know we're nowhere near December, but I had a pile of ephemera that I told myself I was going to get in my 365 journal. And yes, I still have stuff left over from December. It happens to the best of us. I took a screenshot of some ideas for a hot cocoa bar that I made when I had everybody over at our house for Christmas. And it was phenomenal. It was like the highlight of the year. We're going to make it a yearly tradition, so I thought I would include that in this layout. I also had a tag on a gift that I received, some stickers, and some packaging from what ended up being my dog's favorite treats out of his stocking, and it had this adorable to and from label on it and some snowmen. So I ended up using the rest of the packaging in another layout that I do. I'll show you later, but here we are. By the way, I can't encourage you enough to take a look at the packaging that you receive, or that your everyday items are shipped or stored in. Some of the packaging, like, they pay artists to come up with the most eye-catching, marketable, eye-popping, prettiest designs. And so often these are things we throw away, and they make for lovely junk journal layouts. And here I do just that. I take another package. I'm telling you, dog treats, man, they know how to design some nice packaging. So I take the packaging that is in the shape of a stocking, I cut the stocking out and use it as a pocket in my junk journal layout. I will tell you that sometimes the packaging is difficult to glue to the page. Here I'm using a wet white glue. I suspect a silicone glue may work a little bit better. If you're having difficulty gluing the packaging to your page, consider sewing it. Obviously that's not going to work if your journal is already bound together, but you can maybe sew it to the page and then glue the page to an existing page in your journal, I guess would be my suggestion. And don't forget, you can always just staple things in your journal. I don't know about you guys, I don't mind the look of a staple. I love the look of a staple. One thing I did when I was setting up my 365 journal was use pages I don't normally use in my journals, and this includes coloring pages. I was kind of running out of certain themes of paper. I knew I would want to do some Christmas layouts, and I had some Christmas themed coloring book pages, and it kind of surprised me how much I like these. When I put them in initially, I was like, well, if I don't like it, I'll just glue pages over top of it and cover it up. But I'm actually really enjoying filling some of these pages with paint and the way that it looks. In this layout specifically, I wasn't exactly coloring in the illustration themselves. I was actually using it to highlight that piece of envelope that I cut out because I thought that it was a really pretty design, but the white on the white paper didn't exactly stick out. So by highlighting it and going around it with some gold shimmer paint, it really made it pop off the page. On the page next to it, I highlighted the snowflakes. And this is another great way you can use your watercolors if you're intimidated by painting. And you don't even have to paint within the lines. You can just highlight or shade rather like most of the things on the page or the parts that you want to pop. And I love the way that this turned out. While the watercolor paints are drying, I decided to get going on the next layout, and I pull out that snowman packaging, and I have to tell you, I love packaging with clear windows in it. It makes for such a fun pocket. And in case you were wondering who that cutie is, that's my Dale, and this is a picture he had taken at daycare in his little Christmas getup. And like I said earlier, don't be afraid to use your pictures in your journals, and don't be afraid to crop them down. I go ahead and crop off the wreath at the top. I do use it. You'll see it in just a second. So just because you're cutting up the picture doesn't mean that you're going to throw away the rest of the picture, right? Just crop out specific elements. Sometimes it works much better in a layout cropping the picture down into specific focal points as opposed to just gluing it down in its entirety. So I think the other thing that really trips people up about this is they think that because they're making a journal layout out of junk, that they can't use their other pretty things and tie them together into a layout they love. That's totally not true. And sometimes we sort of forget to use the stuff we have at hand. And I tried to do a desk dump, I guess you'd say, and take whatever theme. So I knew I was going to be doing a Christmas theme, so I dumped my Christmas packages, my Christmas pictures, some Christmas stickers, some die cuts on my desk at once. And sometimes the layouts kind of just create themselves, and that's exactly what happened here. I found packaging from my Ipsy bag that said home for the holidays. So when you have a dog, you understand that a dog makes a house a home, totally. And I found a die cut, a green die cut of a house, and things kind of just put themselves together. And I have to say, I love this layout. This is totally not what I intended to create, and it just came together perfectly. Oh, and that little packaging in the corner, that is from a Bath and Body Works wallflower, and that's the peppermint packaging that the wallflower came in. And speaking of mixed media, don't be afraid to add different textiles and different textures to add dimension to your page. That's exactly what I did by placing that gold ribbon along, I don't know if you can see it, but where the stockings are. So it kind of makes it look like the stockings are hanging from something, kind of like a mantle. As in many of my other layouts, I use the packaging as either pockets or as hidden journaling spots. A lot, like a lot of times the packaging is busy or shiny, or just lining it with some plain paper is perfect way to add some extra journaling room. It's funny, sometimes I don't think I really have anything to write, and then once I start writing about something, I could just keep going on and on and on forever. I think the hardest part is getting started. Once you start writing, you'll think of a million other things to write from that experience, that memory, so just get started. And to make it less intimidating for yourself, put it on something that's removable. You could always cover it back up if you wanted. If you don't like the writing or you feel like you messed up, there are tons of ways to do this. Get ready, guys. This next layout is something special. I have never made anything like it before. So where we live, we have a railroad museum, and they put on a spectacular light show every Christmas. I love to go. And of course, because I love being there, I took a ton of pictures. But I did not exactly want to make an entire journal devoted to a railway museum. And I had to find a clever way to crop these photos. And by doing so, I basically created a railway within a railway within a railway within a railway. And whoa, get ready for it. This may be the dorkiest thing I have ever done. And halfway through this layout, I was really questioning my own sanity. You saw I was kind of struggling to put all of these pictures on a single page. It just looked cluttered. So ultimately, I decided to start chopping up the pictures piecemeal. I basically cut out the railways and a lot of the buildings and basically built my own track with the railway cut out. And with the buildings, I started stacking the buildings along the railway, and the cars and the people, and even some of the street lamps. For those of you with a sane mind who find this completely ridiculous, I yield. This is totally ridiculous. But my point here is that you can incorporate pictures in your journals, and you can crop them down to create focal points and incorporate them into entire layouts where maybe a portion of the picture is the focal point, but that's not the entirety of the layout. There's so much more to the layout, and you could even crop down pictures and create an entire new picture like I did. I basically created an entirely new picture. So if you're wondering at this point, like, what the hell, this looks like a mess. And by the way, you have no idea how long this took me. I did this off camera because I thought this was too painful to include in the video. I didn't want to make you guys watch it, and it was basically turning out to be a literal train wreck halfway through this, pun intended. So I know this doesn't look good now, but you guys just wait. So when I cropped these pictures down, I obviously had to arrange them along the track. There are plenty of gaps in between the pictures. You have to, right? But it kind of looks weird with the coloring book still sticking out. So I decided to take some glitter, and we're gonna fill the background up with what I'm going to call snow. And boy, does this come to life when we start laying the snow down. I would really encourage you to try this technique of laying some pictures down or any elements you want, cropping them out, and then creating a unifying background with glitter. I know it sounds like something you may have done when you were in like the 3rd grade, but I'm telling you, oh my gosh, glitter never gets old. It's just a fabulous way to incorporate some bling into a layout. If you don't want to do the entire background, maybe draw or paint some mason jars, for example, and like put some glitter in the jars, or use it as like fairy dust, as a gravel road. I don't know, find ways to incorporate it in your journal. Your journal layouts, I promise you'll love it. It's totally worth the mess. So things got a little bit dicey there, but I can't tell you how much I love this journal layout. It's just become such a big part of Christmas. I love Christmas trains. I love putting one up every year. I love going to the Railroad Museum. And again, so this was another layout where I didn't even have to write a thing, and yet I incorporated a bunch of things into a layout that mean a lot to me and are a part of the traditions we take part in every year. And again, I didn't have to write a single word. So this is what I say when I say a 365 journal. I think this truly represents that. It's another representation of something that we hold dear to us just based on a couple of pictures or a couple pieces of ephemera that we've collected. And I actually know I have tickets from the Railroad Museum, but I couldn't find them when I was doing this layout. I'm sure I'll come across them eventually. They're probably sitting at the bottom of my stash somewhere, and I will definitely probably staple them to the page in front of this game ticket when I find them. I think I got this little ticket at the thrift store in those little like card packs, but I've been waiting to use this somehow in my journal, and today was its day. I guess I owe you guys an apology. This was never meant to be a Christmas video or Christmas journal with me, but somehow that is what this is becoming. Oh well. You can obviously use these techniques and ideas to create any theme of layouts you want. While I was putting my die cuts away, I realized I had to put something in that cute little snowman pocket. So I found a gingerbread die cut, and I thought it was perfect because he would poke out of the little pocket. And how perfect as a snowman snack, right? And if you don't remember that little wreath topper that came from the photo of my dog at daycare that I cropped down, I put I put it on top of the picture and put it as the little topper. So let's get on to just a couple more ephemera bits and ideas for your 365 journal. Totally random, but this sticker just came out of a pack of scrubs that I ordered, and I thought it was perfect in this layout where I gripe and moan about some of the trials and tribulations of work. And on to something a little bit more entertaining. Guys, I have blasted you with Christmas stuff. Now it's time to do some warmer weather fun layouts. I have this picture I altered of, well, I have this picture program that where you can alter pictures, and I think of myself as being so clever. And so I made my dog basically sit on a pool raft and added some floaties to him. If you didn't already know, I'm totally obsessed with my dog. And also, I have a shopping bag that I got from Little Cayman Island. It had some cute little dolphins on it. The shopping bag was so cute. And so I cut out this dolphin, and I'm going to create a beach layout of my dog and collage some other elements. And this is going to be fabulous. One thing I've noticed is that in my layouts, like, I love incorporating texture. And so whether that's adding fabric or string, threads, or something to replicate what I'm trying to create, and here it is a wave. So I just start ripping the paper along the edge to kind of create that ruffled wave look. And then I save some leftover packaging and some kind of netting, probably from fruit or something like that, and then add that over top to give more texture and to simulate water. By layering different textures and elements, you create interest, but you also create depth as well. And these are things that I've just discovered by creating layouts and journaling tons of different things. And so I have to say, just you'll find your style, you'll find your voice, you'll find different techniques and ways to do things. Just do it. If the layout isn't going the direction you want, if you're not getting the effects you want, it's okay. Maybe if you're getting really frustrated, maybe just come back to it later. But the only way you're going to get better and really find your voice and your style is to keep doing it. So just start creating. I know it sounds kind of cliche, but you'll find yourself and your own style as you go. So this may seem really simple and obvious, but it's actually changed the way that I journal. So previously, in years past, I would collect ephemera for a larger journal I'm making. And I still do this for some of my trips, but I've kind of been collecting ephemera and let it, circulate out in the general pool. And even if it's ephemera that I've specifically collected for a certain journal, sometimes I'll just let myself use it in my day-to-day 365 journal like I have here. This dolphin came from a shopping bag that I got at Little Cayman, and previously I thought I was going to save it for my Little Cayman Island journal, and I was like, you know what, this would work perfect in this page layout, so I'm just gonna let myself use it in my day-to-day journal. It's okay, I still know where it came from, and sometimes I journal about where I got it. I don't know, but I think it's just a way to encourage yourself to use up your stash and not delay, hoarding things for a journal that you may or may not ever make in the future. Again, I just reached into my handy dandy stash of brown paper packaging and did a little bit of journaling about the beach that Dale and I like to go to here in North Carolina. And since I had some beach themed stuff out and more pictures of Dale at the beach, I thought, let's create a couple more beach themed layouts together. One of which is another cropped photo of Dale on some coloring paper. I believe it's a mermaid themed page, and I thought the blanket he was laying on in the picture, I kind of got a hint of the blanket, and the way he was positioned, I guess, looked awkward to me. So I decided to kind of lean into that beach blanket and do some highlighting of him in the same kind of colors that the beach blanket is. I think it was purple and some yellow, some pinks, and some oranges. So I kind of just extended that out, and I thought it made the positioning look just a little bit less awkward. Watercolors and inks are another great way to help kind of blend a photo into the background if you feel you've cropped it in a way that is a little bit awkward or in a way that just isn't quite jiving with your layout. Come to think of it, maybe this video should be called Ways to Incorporate Photos into Your Journals. I mean, it is a 365 journal after all, and a lot of our memories may be photographs. So I hope you guys don't mind. I wasn't sure that all of you do like to incorporate photos into your journals. Um, it's kind of a journal slash scrapbooking sort of style, I guess. But in reality, it's a 365 journal, which means we're using it to hold our memories and our thoughts. So it seems only natural that we would put photos in our layouts. Because I do a lot of travel journaling and memory keeping, it only seems natural for me to incorporate some of my photos into my journals. But I appreciate that not all of you guys may like that style or that look. I hope, though, I've convinced you today that you should use at least some photos in your journals and do it in a way that you really enjoy and in a style that you find visually appealing. I wasn't really sure where this layout was going, and after I added the word salty, I realized it took up too much room. If I had to do this layout again, I would do it differently, but it's okay. I found a beach napkin that I thought would look really good as, well, decoupaged. And though I did end up being a little disappointed because it didn't really turn out as vibrant as I wanted over the black, which I should have known. If I could do it over again, I probably would have done some white gesso over the black or just put it on a different page, but it is what it is. And I do end up liking the layout when I'm done. It was just kind of things weren't flowing necessarily like my other layouts had. It's okay. You should know that this is real life. This is how things happen sometimes. Just keep going with it until you create something that you like. By the way, if you really love to decoupage and you're tired of paying buku bucks, $3 per decorative napkin, I did a video where I printed my own napkins at home and the whole escapade that ensued. I will link that in the description box. This was a purchased napkin. I did not print this, but I did come up with some gorgeous printed napkins, and believe it or not, the ink holds up to the Mod Podge pretty well. So like I said, if you are interested, check out the description box below. That is a thing that I love about this 365 journal it's really inspired me to create layouts. I don't think that I ever would think to create otherwise because it forces you to use the ephemeras and mementos that you saved. And basically these layouts, like I said, kind of sometimes come together by themselves. Now, this particular beach layout wasn't flowing super well for me, but in general, by journaling, by having to incorporate all of these things that I've saved, it really sparked some ideas I don't think I would have created otherwise. I hope that makes sense. Oftentimes, when I'm creating page layout ideas and I have two pages that are similar in theme, I like to sort of link them together. Sometimes that's physically linking them by putting a piece of paper or something in the middle or overlapping them, sort of unifying them that way. In this case, I linked them together by using unifying text. Initially, this was out of necessity because the salty but sweet was way too large to fit on a single page. I cut them down individually, but in this case, I really like how it came out because I sort of linked the two pages together, if you know what I mean. So I guess the colors, aside from blue, maybe not so much. I had some pinks and some yellows and some other bright colors on the left, and then on the right it's black with some decoupage over the top. I cut out the negative of the dolphin punched and used it as a little page tab. Just little silly simple things like that I think really tie your layouts together and kind of make them pop, I guess. I still wasn't happy with this layout. It felt really clunky, so I just kept going with it, and I felt like at least by adding some shells, it made me more happy with it. I feel like, I don't know, it changed something visually so that it didn't quite look nearly as boxy. To complete the layout, I went around some of the text with some pink and green stickles and then added a journaling card that I sewed and paper punched some more images of starfish out. I added that journaling card to the top and I felt like this had finally come together. Wow, what an adventure. Thank you guys so much for watching and coming along on this journey with me to create a 365 journal, or whatever the heck you want to call it. A journal that reflects you, your individual style, your taste, packed with full of mementos and memories that you will treasure. If this is or maybe isn't a style of journaling that you enjoy and want to see more of, please drop me a comment below. If this isn't for you, let me know why, and let me know what style of journaling that you enjoy and want to see more of. I do love hearing from you guys, and I do read all of your comments. If you enjoyed this and want to see more of Ink and Papyrus, please hit that like and subscribe button, and I can't wait to see you the next time.